Hey, what's up, everybody? XRP $2.80. Are we going to break out? I mean, it is literally almost there. So, this is very, very interesting. We're going to figure it out and we're going to look at Bitcoin and Theta and SHIB and all these other ones. So, let's take a look first here at XRP. We got all the way up to almost $3, $2.96. And remember, we started at $1.92, so we literally went up $1, or actually more than $1 here. So if I start it right here, we have to remember our origins because this wave here, right? When are we going to get a correction? And that's another thing we got to deal with. Is that going to happen before or after we start to break out? So basically, about 19, 20 days, we went up 50, let's see here, about 56, 55%. So that's pretty good. So we already broke above our little resistance area right here between, what is that, $2.60 and 250. So we just did that. Now the big question is, do we have to, is this going to sustain, right? Because we don't have a close above this area. Okay. We don't, you can see, let's take this. We have our engulfing candle that broke out, but we still have 7 hours for this sucker to stay up there, right? So we really want it to close above. We don't want it to come up here and then come all the way back down, because then you have this nasty wick that just pierced through all of this manufactured resistance right here. So, that would not be a good look. The reason why it wouldn't be a good look is because then you would have this three-wave move with a nasty wick at the end of it. Right? So we're still not out of the woods completely with this correction, because again, we have 3 waves now. That is the most dangerous. This is the most dangerous place you can be in, possibly, is where we are exactly right now. The most dangerous place. Why? Because number one, where are we on the retrace levels? We literally went up to the 786, 702. So 702, 786, most dangerous place in a retrace, right? So for example, if you just look at this retrace right here, what happened here? Well, we came down, right? And then we went up in 3 waves. And where did we go? We went to the 786. We went up in 3 waves. 786. And what happened after that? Well, we had to come back down in 3 waves. All the way down, literally all the way to the bottom. So that would totally suck, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, we're at a very dangerous place. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying the risk has significantly increased for us to come down. But also, on the flip side, Bitcoin breaking out into new all-time highs significantly decrease that bad risk, right? Because at the end of the day, there's really 2 ideas, up or down, but both of them will ultimately lead up. For example, you have this expanded flat, right? And now we're getting ready to just go up. Very simple. Right? You can look at it from like a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, right? Breakout. You can look at it like that too. So very, very good. The other way you can look at it is if, let's say you could say that's 3, or even this is 3, depending if you think that's the 5th. And then we also have 3 waves up. So you have 3 waves down, 3 waves up. Well, then you would get either 3 or 5. So let's say you got 3, and then you come back down in 3. Just like back all the way, maybe back down here, before going up and blasting into the stratosphere, right? So what that would be is a W, that would be a WXY blast off. And that would be a three-wave move that would build your base, right? Now, I don't think that's not my first choice. That would be my last choice, right? Now, the only way I would go with that choice is if we started breaking below $2.30. If we break below this breakout area right here, because that's really the area we broke out of, right? Here's your little base. We broke out of the base. We could literally come all the way back down and back test the base. But if we go below that, then it makes it very risky, because then, you know, it's going to have that look. It's going to have that look to it. So you would expect a big dump, then a little bit of a retrace, and then a continuation dump. And then that would be the end. So it'd probably be maybe even bigger than that. So what we can do, I think, is take, if we wanted to figure that out, a trend-based fib time extension from the top. Problem is I don't have the bottom, but if I just click it here, right there, and then I'll double click it, you can see at the bottom right here, the 618 right around there, that's typically where you would see. So that would be somewhere around September. Let's see exactly. Let me spread that out. So you have the 50 in August, and you have the 618 in September. So I'm just trying to figure out if this was bearish, right? Because anytime you get three waves, you got to be skeptical. You got to be extremely skeptical, especially when you're in the retrace levels, right? So if we had to come back down in three, September, October, or sorry, August, September would be the spot where we would figure a bottom. But only if we go back below 230, right? Otherwise, I'm ecstatic, right? So it's like, well, what's all this bearishness? We're at $2.80. How can you possibly be bearish? I'm not. I'm extremely bullish. I've been bullish forever. But like I said yesterday, literally yesterday, I said, once we get up here, which we just did, literally 24 hours later, it's going to be concerning, because, you know, now, if you're an investor, if you're a hodler, there's nothing to worry about. But if you entered a leveraged trade down here like me, right, then you got to worry about it, right? Because this is what I have to do for a living. So I really don't want, I mean, I can take us coming back down and retesting this level, but going below it, I'd have to cut the trade and I'd have to start all over again. Or if I was day trading, which I'm not right now, I'm swing trading, but if I was day trading, then I would basically just sell it all right now, and then wait for a little correction, and then get back in, right? But I don't like playing those games in the retrace levels. Now I could play those games down here, up here, right? But when you're right at the verge, there's so many things. Like all it takes is literally one tweet, one piece of economic data, one XRP ETF or something, just instant, boom, gone, right? So I'm holding right here, and I'm just kind of waiting. So this move right here looks like, to me, this move back over here, and I don't think I even, yeah, over here, like this COVID dump right here, right? See how it kind of came up, kind of came down, right? It popped the high, but then it had to come down, and then it had to go sideways. So let's take a fractal, and let's take a look at that real quick. Let's take it from here, and we'll do it from there. So there you go. Wow, look at that. It fits very, very nicely. Huh, I wonder why I didn't think of that before. Maybe because we didn't get this printed action here. But yeah, it looks good here. Look at that. And this was the beginning of the bull run. This was the C19 dump before that massive bull run. Not for XRP, did not get the bull run, but the rest of the market did, right? But also the rest of the market did print this same similar structure where it kind of came up. It was a little hump here. It was a little roundabout. It kind of went sideways and then it spiked the high, right? It made you think, right? Because we crashed, right? And then we came up and it made you think we were rolling over, and we're going to crash. And then what happened? We stopped right there and we popped the high. So we could see something like this. So basically, you know, you get up here a little bit more, you know, kind of pull back a little bit, then kind of build a little bit of a base. Why would you want to build a base when you're at the verge of a breakout? Because the reason why you want to build a base is because you want this area right here, all of this resistance, right? We break out and then you come down, and now we're building a base on top of our resistance, basically making it stronger support, so that when you blast off and then eventually you crash at some point, if you ever had to come back down in a bear market, you're going to have more support later on. But nobody thinks that far ahead for their investment, unfortunately. So now obviously it's not going to look like this, because I mean, I don't think it's going to take that long. But anyways, I just thought the fractal looked pretty cool. What would be better is if we kind of, let's just get rid of this. If we kind of just, you know, got up here and then had a little bit of a flag, a little bit of an ABC, back test, and then go. And that makes sense, because let's look at Bitcoin real quick. Before I do that, let's look at the small time frames. And you can see the parabola right here. It just goes straight up, and it's probably gonna correct for a minute here. And you could see look at the way it came up. Look at that. That is bottlenecking, bottleneck. Boom! Spike the high, right? And then sometimes, you know, you come down, you back test, and then you keep going up on that parabola. But it looks really, 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 really good. So now we know, remember, we had two ideas back over here. When we were in all this crap, there was two ideas. Remember, one of them was a rising wedge or a diagonal, right? So basically a diag is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You have this rising wedge diag, which would mean that would be a 1, right? Which would mean you would want an ABC, which is a 2, and then go up. Obviously, that didn't happen, which is awesome. Why? Because now we can look at this as a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, which is incredibly bullish. It's like revving the engine, and the RPMs are going higher and higher and higher, and then you drop the clutch, and bam, you explode off the gate. Is a supercross term. But so awesome, right? We broke out. You know, you kind of see we got a doji though. You got kind of a sell signal right there, and that's to be expected. And remember, today's Friday. We're heading into the weekend, so it could be bad. I mean, not bad, but it could be, you know, it could be bearish on Sunday. I don't know. I got like 8 or 9 positions open. So I'm definitely going to close some of those positions over Sunday, because I don't trust Sundays at all. I mean, if you can go and mark every Sunday on any chart involving crypto, it's going to be bad. So I'm not saying this Sunday will be, because a lot of times too, when you break out, we could have a bullish Sunday, you know, we could have a very bullish Sunday. Now back over here, when we actually broke out of this, it was all mixed, right? It was really mixed in here. So here's just a random Sunday right here. And you can see, look at, it's a red candle. Here we go again. The next Sunday, the following Sunday, look at the red candle, right? So let me see. What's another Sunday here? There's another Sunday, and nothing too crazy, but it was consolidation nonetheless, right? So that's 3 Sundays in a row just there, not even counting all of this. Because why Sunday? Because this is when the weekly candle closes, and what happens is when you have bullishness throughout the week, a lot of times you got to go back and retest certain areas, aka the weekly order block, right? So if we look at the weekly chart just for 1 second here, you can see all these wicks, right? Every one of these candles ended on a Sunday, right? So, you know, it ended here and then it opened. But look, you can see how you have wicks at the bottom of all of these red candles and a lot of the green candles, right? So when the candle ends, so it ended here, and then this one opened, but then look, then it came down further, right, on a Monday. So usually Sunday you get the sell-off, Monday you get the bleed in to the fall to the previous candle, and then throughout the week it takes time, right? It takes time to get back going. But that's just what I've noticed a little bit. But the main thing is we have a bullish engulfing weekly candle. This is the biggest weekly candle I've ever seen in this range since back over here, which is a lot bigger, right? So this candle is bigger than all of these candles. So that's a good thing. So the small time frames, I looked at it, but it's just not really, you know, I mean, we had our 1-2s, right? Now, if we look closely at this right here is beautiful price action, right? We rarely ever get something like that. Now, if I flip it upside down, you can see what I mean here, right? You can see the bottlenecking in here. How it just kind of goes boop, 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 boop. Like it's like a heartbeat. And then all of a sudden, boom, it just drops, right? So, or I'm sorry, it pumps. So, you know, let's look at the 1 minute. Why not? So the 1 minute chart, you can see the same thing here. Definitely bearish right now on the 1 minute. So you have this little bottlenecking, and you can see a lot of times that ends up being the top here on the smaller time frame. But you can see 5 waves. 1, 2, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So that could be an A. And now it looks like you got a 3-wave move. Maybe you get 3 down and then 3 up, and then you get a B, and then you come down and get a C. So, and that would kind of bring us towards the daily close, which would be over here somewhere. So, yeah, that's kind of a dump there. Let's see. Let's measure that. How much did it dump? That was a 10% dump, 9.5% dump. Damn. Whew. So, okay, that's enough for XRP. Let's just explain a couple things really quick here on the big boy chart. Because now when we look at the big boy chart, look at it now, guys. I mean, is it not getting exciting? I mean, when you look at this chart, you don't have to be a genius. You don't have to go to Harvard to read this chart. I mean, a 7-year-old can figure this chart out. I mean, just look at it. I mean, what is it suggesting? It's suggesting we have a lot of money coming our way if we play our cards right? So, again, we're right at this resistance area, and we're cupping into the resistance. But if you notice, over the last 6 months, we've been building a volume profile inside of this gap, right? There's a gap between the all-time high and the retrace high. So you have all of this empty space for years, right? For 7 years, you had all of this empty space. So then once the price finally gets into this gap, think of the gap like you're underwater, right? You're underwater and this little thing is like a bubble. And then you get inside the bubble and now you can finally breathe. You're breathing. You finally have air, right? So you're in this bubble, you're catching your breath. And then once you caught your breath, right? You hold your breath one more time and then you try to bust out of the bubble, right? So kind of a lame way to think about it, but it is. So you're building this volume profile here, but the shape of it is important. What is the shape? The shape is extremely corrective, right? So kind of like something like this. Like you can totally see it's a flag. I mean, totally, you could see it. So, and what did we just do? We just broke above the flag. So, yeah, we're in the retrace levels. Yeah, we did print 3 waves and it's a little sketchy, right? So we just have to hold on tight. So, this is a very important area that we're at. So we'll see how it plays out. But the rest of the market isn't as nice, I would say. XRP's up 10% today. Okay, but look at SHIB, look at Filecoin, look at, a couple others. XLM, oh my goodness, 20%. XLM looking really, really nice after Elon Musk tweeted it out. No, I'm just kidding. Well, his Grok sign, right? I posted this yesterday. I replied to Elon Musk. Not that he sees it, but this is what he posted. I mean, look at that. That when I saw that, I immediately thought of XLM, right? So his platform is called X. His logo of Grok looks like XLM. I don't know. It's just odd. And then when you see his main post, right? This is the most interesting post of Elon Musk is right here. Was this one right here? Okay. This one was interesting. There's a lot going on in this post. Now, if you look, he goes, Fordo was the underdoge. All thought he would fail, him most of all. So he's talking about Doge, right? But why would he post this chart? Where the hell is Doge at in this chart? I don't even see it on this chart. I don't see Doge anywhere. I see a ring, and it's a Bitcoin ring. Okay, but what do we see, though? We see who's at the very, very top. XRP. I thought that was interesting. And you can tell it's out of order, right? It's not like he's sharing the market cap. He's sharing basically, random coins here against Bitcoin. And some of them are against ETH. So I don't know what he was thinking or suggesting, but I don't know. Conspiracy. So all it takes is one little tweet, one little this, one little that. Now, what I would really, really love to see, like I would hope that this would happen one day, would be that President Trump tweeted about XRP. Why the hell would he tweet about XRP? Because think about who Trump is. He's American first. America, 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 right? All about America. Well, guess what? Who is the #1 American crypto on the planet? It's not Bitcoin. Bitcoin's not American. Ethereum is not American. Tether is not American, and it's not even a crypto. So who's next? XRP. American, totally. Ripple, the company, is totally American. XRP, totally American, right? So if he's all about America first, then, why wouldn't he come out and say, hey, support American cryptos? And I think he did that, but he did it in a way where he wouldn't get pinned for insider trading, because his sons are all into this stuff. Eric, you don't think his sons have millions and millions of XRPs? I guarantee they do. They've stated they do. So he's got to be careful about that. But nonetheless, we saw like ADA, H bar. When Trump got elected, we saw the American coins like totally beat the hell out of all the other ones, right? So that kind of gave us a signal like, hey, we should stick with America. But he hasn't confirmed it with a complete tweet, but he did talk about, this tweet here: a crypto reserve will elevate this critical industry after years of corrupt attacks by the Biden administration, which is why my executive order on digital assets remember, we got to remember, he signed an executive order. See, people forget about this stuff. He signed, it's not like it's disappeared, right? If anything, it's more powerful now than it is back then because it's already been kicking in, right? Directed by the Presidential Working Group to move forward on a crypto strategic reserve that includes XRP number one, Solana, and then ADA. So he did tweet about XRP, but how cool would it be that, he came out and he talked about XRP from an American perspective, like, hey, Ripple's a cool company and it's American, and I don't know, maybe it's just a dream. That would be so cool though. And it was so funny because all the Bitcoin maxis came out and were like, what about Bitcoin and Ethereum? You didn't mention that. And then Trump comes, well, obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum, as other valuable cryptos, will be the heart of a reserve. I also love Bitcoin. He had to throw that in there because everyone was tripping out. I was like on the floor like, oh my God, my favorite president tweeted about my favorite crypto. And then, after 4 years of Biden, it was a sign of relief, honestly. So here we have XLM, super bullish. You're going to have to excuse my rants from time to time, but we're all on this journey here. This is a journey. I mean, this is a long ass journey. I mean, I got into crypto summer of 2017, so somewhere around I want to say like May, June, July, like somewhere around this area. I got into crypto. That's the first time. So the first bull run that I ever got, I didn't really get to reap the rewards. I mean, I made a lot of money, but I didn't sell. Like, let's just put it that way. I didn't sell. All right. That's my first mistake. So I had to ride all of this down. And during this, I also made mistakes, like not being in Bitcoin. I should have been, I was in Bitcoin primarily, but I just was an idiot back then, and I should have been in Bitcoin. And then this bull run right here, which was not a bull run, that was the first bull run I actually succeeded, but I made one massive mistake, which was my biggest holding was the coin that didn't even go on a bull run. So XRP, right? XRP and XLM did not break out into a new all-time high, unlike, for example, when you look at Theta, right? This was the bull run. So if I put XRP side by side here, you could see XRP just went up to the local high, but Ethereum too, but Theta and Chainlink and ADA and a lot of other coins just did very, very well. And if I would have focused more on those, I would have really nailed the bull run. So the first bull run, not so good. The second bull run, I did a lot better, but I wasn't in the right coin. The third bull run, which is this bull run right now, a lot of my alts are down in the dumps while Bitcoin is way up here. So, each bull run has its problems. It's never going to be a home run completely, right? So that's why I'm a little bit more conservative this bull run, but I also know, like, when I look at coins like XRP, I know that this is my ticket. This is my golden ticket to the chocolate factory, right? So I have to be smart about it, right? So, because the SEC really screwed it right here. And in this bull run, I didn't take profits like I should. I just saw my money going up and I just didn't want it to stop, right? So I was definitely part of the herd back then. back in 2017. And then once I felt the pain, once I felt the knife in my stomach of loss, that's when I said, okay, I'm never letting that happen again. And then I did again. for other mistakes, not selling part, but not being in the right coin part. Like this bull run, I should have stayed in Bitcoin. I was too bullish on XRP too early on, right? Because I still had to go through all of the torture. I mean, we were back over here, we weren't even halfway done with the range, right? We still had like 2 years in reaccumulation, so I was way too far ahead. So, but that actually helped because it allowed me not to sell my XRP because I held all my XRP. I continued to accumulate XRP, right? So now I have a good amount of XRP, and I really don't have much percentages left. So this leads into the members video, which is going to be the art of rotation, right? When do I sell my XRP for a coin that's going to give me more percentages, right? That's the big question. But you don't want to sell the leader until the leader has met the target, right? So I think that could be very close. So let's look at Theta, right? So this is my other, I love Theta, and this is my other coin, but look at the difference. Theta is way down in the dumps. Now, it's still very bullish because I still expect it to go up here, but it's not like XRP where it's at the verge of breaking out into a new all-time high, which is more exciting. But from a percentage perspective, it's not really exciting because if you like Theta and you're invested into Theta, you're gonna make more money in Theta going from here to here versus from here to the target, right? So that's important to understand. Like if I go from where we are all the way to the all-time high, that's 2,000% essentially. Okay. If we have the Ethereum model, which is the 3.414 for Ethereum, you can see, right? You have the Ethereum, I call it the Ethereum or the W model, which is, you have different models. You have a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulate. You have that, right? You also have the Ethereum model, which is like a double bottom kind of area. And then you have like just a regular ABC and then a massive impulse, right? Or then you have like the climbing the wall of worry where you're just climbing, kind of like what Bitcoin did. So you could see Ethereum made it way up here on target, okay? With a bigger market cap, I would imagine. So if we look at Theta, and I just shared this yesterday, but if we got to the 3.414, that is insane because that to me would be all the way, obviously, $55, right? So Theta is not even $1. So we're talking about $55 for Theta, right? XRP wouldn't even dream of $55. I mean, I think eventually it will, but man, that's gonna be a lot to get there. So despite what the conspiracies say about XRP, you still gotta, you gotta use common sense, right? So that's why I feel like Theta will give, not just Theta. When I say Theta, I mean other ones too, but in the same ballpark. But I feel like Theta will give you a bigger percentage gain overall, right? If you said like in 3 years from now, which one's going to give you more percentages, I would imagine it would be Theta, because again, if XRP goes up and hits its 4.236, right? Let's say everyone's got the magical $10 target, right? If we go up to $10, that's not even 300%. So, and then you could say, well, then why are you holding XRP? Why don't you sell it right now and go into Theta? Maybe I should. No, because the reason I don't do that is because I need to confirm what's going to happen. So I want XRP to hit $4, $5, even $6. Once it's right in the meat, like right in the main part of the wave, then you're like, okay, it's got a lot of conviction in the move. Then I can start looking at other assets and rotating. But we'll talk about that and the strategy behind that in the members video. But essentially, you know, if $55 doesn't mean much, right? Because again, if you go from the all-time high up to $55, that's the same amount as XRP, right? About 200-300%. So where does all the money come from? Where does the big portion of the money come from? The return. It comes from the retracement. It comes from just getting back to the all-time high is 2,000%. Now, if you add that on top of the $55, right, you're looking at 6,600%. So well over a 50x, right? Anything above a 50x is a home run in my book, right? Even a 10x is totally sweet, because we're going to take these things, sometimes people take those for granted, like 100x, 10x, because eventually we're going to get to a point where we're only going to have 5 or 10x. No more 20, 50x's anymore, because the market's going to get bigger. That's the whole thing. Like, in order for crypto to work, you got to have the volatility slow down a little bit, right? So anyways, but Theta, I'm very bullish on it. If Bitcoin is bullish and if XRP is bullish, because number one, we've been going down for 6 months. We went down for 6 months, but not only that, we crashed 83%. So we crashed more than 80%, and we went down for 6 months. That to me is bad, right? But at the end of the day, you have to understand that, well, we should get a reversal sometime, because most people will feel like if we went down this much, we're going to keep going down. And that could be true. But the way I look at it is, well, we're due for a reversal. We are totally due for one. So let's see here. I don't like it down there. So if we already have our ABC, we have our bullish divergence, right? I mean, what else are we waiting for? Nothing. I mean, we should be good. So if we zoom in here, you could see we don't really have anything going on except what? A 3-wave move back to resistance. So if this 3-wave move can turn into 3 waves down, always remember that. And if it did that, then I would expect higher prices, right? So I don't know. Are we going to keep pumping up here? Is this going to reset, pump? It all depends how the price resets, right? If it gets up here and then it kind of topples over, you can see it didn't reset properly. Now, how do you reset properly? Just like over here. You can see how it breaks out, it resets, right? It breaks out, it resets, right? Is this a reset or is this a temporary top? It's kind of hard to read that. So I'm going to have to go to my futures chart, which is right there. That's a little bit easier to read. Yeah, there's really nothing there on the 5-minute. It's just kind of ranging. Now it looks like it could be a flat, right? You have A, you have 3 up, and then you have 3 down. So that's interesting. So this could be a flat right here. So are we getting ready to gear up to go again? I mean, it could be. We do have 5 waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we have A, B, C. So is it going to get more complex? I don't know. You just have to track it, right? You have to see. But to me, it still looks pretty bullish. It still looks like it's bullish. So the question is, are we not bullish enough? How bullish is the market? Is it kind of bullish? Is it a little bit bullish? Or is it extremely bullish and we should get ready to go? Well, nobody will say it's extremely bullish until it already happened, right? So the time to get bullish was down here. In hindsight, that was the low. That was the... How many people were extremely, extremely bullish right here? Not many, right? So as you go up, more and more people get bullish. But as you go up, the percentages stop, right? They dwindle. So you want to be... So for example, when we pumped all the way up here, people were bullish. But that was the time to be bearish because that was the top. And we came down here and that was the time to be bullish because that was the bottom. So it's always the opposite, right? It's always the opposite. Most of the time, people, you get pumped, everyone's bullish up here. So when you're supposed to be bearish, right? So are we bullish or are we bearish? Well, I would say that I'm leaning bullish, but we also have to be cautious here because being bullish in price discovery is different than being bullish going into a correction or a retrace, right? Because we just hit the 50% level here for theta. So can we break that and get a little bit further along here, right? Because that's the main part, is getting back above $1 or so. So let me tell you what I think is going to play, how it's going to play out. So the way I think it's going to play out, and let me put XRP over here, or let me see, maybe Bitcoin. See, the issue, it's really hard because you have other elements to it, like Bitcoin and stuff. So I feel like if we can get back up to this area, then you would get a little bit of a correction, right? And then you would get back up to this area. And then depending if that's 5 or 3, maybe a little bit of a back test. And then we get back up here, right? And then from there, it's going to be really difficult to get through that because we just expended our energy. Remember, you could fill up your car with gas and it's only going to take you so far. So if you filled up the tank, a couple hundred miles away, and then we just went across the state line and we're way the heck over here, you're basically out of gas. You need to refill. So we could come down and refill before going back up. And that's kind of how I'm thinking about this. I don't know if... The big question that I have is, I really believe that theta will get back to this level. The question I have is, can we break that level? How bullish is this going to be? Because I'm expecting a bullish wave up. I've been saying that for a while, right? Ever since this wave was identified as 5, and then we had 4, 5, and then it really confirmed it. Then we had the bullish divergence. So, there's not a lot of fractals we can look at, because there's not a lot of price history on how it moves bullishly. So I think the closest one would be maybe something like this. You could see that right there. Something like that, right? Without maybe the big crash. And you get kind of right in here, and the trick is to maintain this level and not to go back below this level, right? So that we can get one more level, which would be the ultimate level, the big level that I'm waiting for, the grand, not the grand finale, but sort of the grand finale, right? Would be what? Would be that zone between, let me just do that one more time with a line, this right there. So like 886 or so, yeah, somewhere in that zone between, let's see, I can't see any order blocks because I'm a little bit too zoomed in. So there we go. So somewhere in that zone, that has been my target ever since I started the channel right there. So, and I believe we will get there, right? Because we have 3 up, we have 3 down, and if this goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh my God, that would be the best possible situation ever, right? Because why? Because it broke above this area, which is this area, which is 330, which is coincidentally XRP's all-time high. So it's as if XRP is going to go from 81 cents up to its all-time high. Right? And then beyond that, and then between, $7, $8, right? Because the all-time high is even, what is it? Like $15, $16. But if I use the order blocks, it's more like $13, which is also coincidentally the 4.236 of XRP. So I think Theta and XRP have more in common in price than we think. So let me ask you, do you think, no matter what, I feel like we're going to get a retrace? The first thing we got to do is get through the retrace. The second thing we got to do is get through the swing high. The third thing we got to do is get to the target. But if we could break this, all we have to do is break 330 and Theta can easily get to $8. Break 3, get 8. Break 330, get 8, right? So that's kind of how I'm looking at Theta. So we'll circle back. Now, I tweeted out, I think yesterday, about Theta Fuel. So I said it was looking interesting. So let's look at Theta Fuel here. Theta Fuel looking interesting to me. So the reason why it's looking interesting is because, again, well, first of all, we're at support. Second of all, it looks like we just formed a double bottom, right? Kind of like if I take the arrow and you can see we came down, we had a bottom, we came back up, and then we had a double bottom essentially. Or you can even look at this. We came down, we came up, we came back down. We had a double bottom and then a triple bottom, right? So I'm looking at this as being extremely respected. So if we have 5 waves in a 3-wave formation at support with a double bottom, with Bitcoin breaking out, with XRP in the retrace levels, I mean, this is the environment needed for us to get going here. And that could have been the low here. So, if you want to load up on any more Theta Fuel, I think this would not be financial advice, but it'd definitely be what I would be doing in this situation, because it kind of seems like to me that this is setting up for a wave up like that. So if we could get a 4 and a 5 and we can get back up here, see, that's the thing. Like now when we go to Bitcoin, if Bitcoin is almost done with its bull run, Jesus Christ, $117,000 Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is almost finished with its bull run, right? Because is this going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like a big mega wave? It's kind of tricky. Or is it going to be more like, I mean, if this is a wave 1, and then we get a wave 3, 4, and 5, I mean, that could be pretty big. So if we take a trend-based extension from the low to the high to the low, you can see at minimum, we should hit 135. And ideally, you want to hit about 160 now, which I never thought would be even possible. I thought maybe more like 130, 140. But now we're talking like even possibly 160. And it could even be higher than that, because this looks like a wave 1, wave 2. In order to be, wave 3 can't be the smallest wave. So it has to be bigger than this wave 1. And if it is, that's going to get us to 160, but you still have 4 and 5, which now you could literally get to 200K, which I never thought I would say that. 200K seems insane. I would probably say more like 170, 180 if it was going to be like that according to this parabola. But that doesn't give us much time though, right? So, but the altcoins don't need a lot of time. Remember, they really only need 4 weeks and they can get there. But for something like Theta, since it's so down in the dumps, right? It's got to get through all of this, this is going to be the hardest thing to get through. And then it's got to get through that, and then it can get up here. So trying to put everything together, it could be a little challenging, right? So let's zoom in. It looks like it's still pumping here. Oh yeah, Theta looking good. Theta looking good. Maybe I might buy a little bit more. Yeah, so Theta, it looks like it still has more upside to come. This doesn't look finished. I think we're going to get a little bit more to go here. And rightfully so, because if you look at Theta, all it had is this little wave here. It's not too bad. So to me, it looks like you got 1, 2. See, I don't know if that's 3, 4, and 5 or 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Probably something like that. I think we're in the 5th. Not bad, not bad at all. 1 minute chart. Now the 1 minute, doesn't look as nice, but it still has that flat look, like that flat that we were looking at. Okay, so that's enough of Theta. Bitcoin. Damn, we're already at an hour almost. I guess time flies when it's not so bearish, right? So Bitcoin. Okay, so now we know Bitcoin is not going to do the flat, right? Remember we were talking about, there was 2 ideas here. If this was going to be 3 down and then let's go, which is what it's looking like, versus 3 down and then you go 3 up and then you go 3 back down and then you go up. Now that could still be the case because you still have 3 waves, right? So if this comes down in 3 and we actually break that liquidity, grab it, and then fly, that would be the most trappiest running flat of all time. WXY go. So, but I don't think that's the case. I think this to me looks like this right here. If I go to Bitcoin, if I can find it really quick, you can kind of see again like this little spike ABC here, a little spike ABC, the same kind of looking flat structure. So we could be in this wave. So if I take that fractal and I scrunch it down, look at that. It actually looks pretty decent here. So I'm trying to get it as best as I can, but there you go. Right? You got the pump, flat, pump, flat. So yeah, it fits pretty good. I wouldn't say it fits like a glove, but it fits okay. So if you can see, we're probably, and look where we stopped. We're right in this little flat area here, right? So you can see this was an A, B, C. It was an expanded flat. Oh, those damn telemarketers, man. Every time I'm trying to do a video. So anyways, that should do it for this video. I want to cut it right here. I'm going to look at some more alts later, but I will catch you guys on the next one. This is going to be part 1. So let me upload this and I will catch you guys on the next one. By the way, I want to look at Litecoin. I want to look at a few others. I want to look at Ethereum. I want to look at ADA. Just not enough time in here. So, I want to look at SHIB. I want to look at a few others. But this is just part 1. I'll get to the part 2 and after I upload this. So anyways, I will catch you. Remember, none of this is financial advice, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.